There are plenty of clues that The Last of Us Season 2 will expand on the backstory of Jeffrey Wright's character Isaac, and that could be a great thing for the show. Isaac is the ruthless leader of the Washington Liberation Front who overthrew Fedra and took over the Seattle quarantine zone. Although his journey began by liberating the people from their oppressive overlords, Isaac eventually became a corrupt warmonger in his own right. The Last of Us Part 2 only had time to hint at that fascinating story, but the TV show has the freedom to really explore it. Showrunners Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann have already made one right move with Isaac by bringing back his original video game voice actor to play him in the HBO series. Wright gave a captivating performance in his couple of scenes in The Last of Us Part 2, but the TV show has a chance to really expand on this character. It could even dedicate a whole episode to Isaac's backstory, not just how he took over the Seattle QZ, but why he was driven to rise up. There have been plenty of hints that that's the plan. All hints suggest The Last of Us Season 2 will expand on Isaac's backstory. Jeffrey Wright was seen filming non-game scenes, and he's teased an Isaac origin story. Isaac looking down at a Seraphite prisoner in The Last of Us. There have been plenty of hints that The Last of Us Season 2 will explore Isaac's origin story. The first photo of Wright on The Last of Us set showed him filming a scene that isn't in the game. He's wearing tactical gear and standing on the street alongside his troops. It's just one photo taken by an onlooker, but it seems to confirm that the show's depiction of Isaac will go beyond what's seen in the game. The series could go back and show how Isaac managed to topple Fedra and invade Seattle. In a recent interview with TV Line, Wright acknowledged that he'd been getting asked a lot about whether or not The Last of Us Season 2 will dig into Isaac's backstory. He teased, "We might," which isn't a confirmation by any means, but isn't a denial, either. The writer notes that after this answer, Wright gave a look that suggested, "I know something you'd really like to know." All signs are pointing to Isaac getting a much larger role in the second season of the TV show than he got in The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 didn't have time to explore Isaac's character in depth. The game could only show Isaac from Abby's perspective. Although Isaac is one of The Last of Us Part 2's most compelling characters, the game didn't have enough time to really explore the character in depth. Video games are confined to the perspective of the character that the player is controlling. When they're playing as Ellie, Isaac is a mysterious background character confined to notes and letters. When they're playing as Abby, they finally meet Isaac face to face, but Abby quickly leaves the base to go looking for Owen, and Isaac isn't seen again until a deadly encounter 3 days later. TV shows aren't confined by the same limitations. They can jump between a bunch of different characters' perspectives and flash back and forth all over the narrative timeline. The Last of Us Season 1 had cold opens ranging from a scientist in Indonesia witnessing the cordyceps outbreak to Ellie's mother giving birth to her after getting infected. Season 2 could take advantage of this format to develop Isaac a bit more and show things from his point of view. He might turn out to be more sympathetic than he seems in Part 2. The Last of Us Season 2 has plenty of Isaac history to draw from. Ellie finds a lot of evidence of Isaac's ruthless takeover of Seattle. Ellie and Dina find a truck full of skeletons in The Last of Us Part 2. In The Last of Us Part 2, the player doesn't get to meet Isaac until they get to the end of Ellie's third day in Seattle and go back to the first day to play as Abby. But Isaac is a looming presence in the game long before then. When Ellie and Dina first arrive in Seattle, they find that a vast downtown section of the quarantine zone is unoccupied. As they start exploring, they find evidence of a violent uprising against Fedra by the mysterious group they're chasing, the Washington Liberation Front. Playing as Ellie, wandering around downtown Seattle, there are plenty of notes, letters, and official documents to be found mentioning Isaac. He recruited a bunch of people who were similarly fed up with FEDRA's oppression and they rose up and took over the QZ by brute force. Ellie and Dina stumble across a WLF hideout where they planned an attack on a Fedra convoy, and it's possible to find the remains of the convoy itself after the attack. There are also a handful of skeletons of Fedra soldiers that Isaac executed dotted around the city. The Last of Us Part 2 might not have shown any of Isaac's backstory, but there's still plenty of established backstory for the second season of the HBO series to draw from. Season 1 expanded on the game's hints that Ellie's mother was friends with Marlene by showing her giving a baby Ellie to Marlene to look after. Season 2 can do the same with all the suggestions about Isaac's backstory from the letters, battle plans, and bodies to be found around Seattle in Part 2. How Isaac's origin story would complement Ellie and Abby's story in The Last of Us Season 2. It's a more macro exploration of the endless cycle of violence. Ellie is held down and forced to watch Joel's murder in The Last of Us Part 2. Mazin and Druckmann have made it clear that they won't just expand on video game characters for the sake of it. It has to expand on the themes of the story at hand. Bill and Frank's romance made for a beautiful standalone episode of Season 1, but it also served a thematic purpose. It tied into the central theme of Joel and Ellie's story, the sacrifices that people make for their loved ones. Isaac's origin story would similarly complement the core theme of Ellie and Abby's story in The Last of Us Season 2. Ellie and Abby's story in The Last of Us Part 2 is all about the endless cycle of violence and revenge. Joel kills Abby's father, so Abby kills Joel, so Ellie sets out to kill Abby, and slaughters all her friends along the way. The message is that revenge won't solve anything, it'll just lead to more violence. Isaac's war with Fedra, and later the Seraphites, is a much more macro version of that. The Last of Us Season 2 has a great opportunity to contrast that with Ellie and Abby's tale of vengeance.